it's an interesting point that Nick brings up about differentiating yourselves. It's not, because and Dave and I, we kind of flocked together. I had a checkered past as well. We both were like allergic to kind of metal around our wrists. So we kind of flocked together. And I know for sure our 1L year, we were very close and worked very hard on pretty much everything we did. And so part of my idea when I got out was, well, you may have gone to Harvard or Yale or something, but I can work just as hard as you can, or I can research just as hard as you can. And when I get in the courtroom, those 12 jurors aren't going to know where I went to law school. They're not going to care. They're going to care if I zealously advocate for my client or not. So with that idea in mind, what things have y'all done to differentiate yourselves with respect to your brand?
Well, me in my practice, as a criminal defense attorney, when the prosecutor has a case, most attorneys will look at the weakness in a case, because you can win your case if you find the weakness. But the way I approach it is, I look at their strength and I try to beat them on their strength, because if I do beat them on their strength, I didn't beat them, I broke them. In other words, there's no appealing it, there's no coming back, game over. And that's been my reputation. I just go in there and I do it in a professional manner. I don't go for the weakness, I go for the strength. And they all know me for that now.
For me, it's been a couple of things. Number one, the way I treat my clients. I represent mostly Latino individuals, mostly from Mexico and Central America. They vary from second grade education, illiterate, all the way to multi-million-dollar construction business owners. And I don't treat them any different, even though they come from two completely different backgrounds. And I think that's made a huge difference for my less educated, more humble clients, because they come into our office and we treat them like gold, and that's not the type of service that they're used to getting anywhere. So that's one thing. And also, immigration is a really tough field to be in right now. It was tough before January, it's even tougher now. And there is a huge expectation or stigma that immigration attorneys just are afraid of the government and aren't going to try. We have to do a lot of thinking outside the box. And with my colleagues, they know me for thinking outside the box. And even though that's not a motion that's in a practice manual and it's not a strategy that's necessarily used, I'm going to try it, because the worst that can happen is they can say no. And I'm saving my client from getting deported, so their kid doesn't have to worry when they come home if they're going to find mom and dad. And that really drives me. And there was one more I was going to say, and the question was, what do you use to distinguish yourself? And I make it known to everybody else that I do immigration and nothing else. And the network of attorneys around me that I refer to, they absolutely know anytime that an immigration question comes up that they have someone to call. But I feel like if I were to do a couple of different areas, they would never be quite sure, should I send her immigration, should I not? So I'm very clear, even with clients that come through the door, if you have some other issue, we will gladly work with someone else that can help you.
I want to touch on that real quickly. Stick to your wheelhouse, find what you're good at and stick to it, because if you're the attorney on your website says you do personal injury, criminal defense, family law, parenting plans, wills, trusts, and estates.
Door law.
I mean, anything that walks in the door you're willing to kill and eat. That's just a bad look. You're not going to be represented well in the community.
I second that. That is absolutely true. Maybe a couple of things, but if you do one really well, that will set you apart. For me, in terms of my brand, it's about trust. It's about communication with the client. Most attorneys practice probably some form of personal injury. So the market is so saturated with personal injury attorneys. And in terms of marketing, advertising, there's no way I can compete as a solo with the big firms. So similar to my colleague, I try to focus in on the one client that I'm working with at a time to make sure that they know that they found an attorney that they can trust, an attorney that they can communicate with. Good or bad, I give my clients my cell phone number, because a lot of times, most firms, you might not hear back from them from time to time. You have to call them or track them down. But I want
Okay.
I want to deliver superior service to my clients so that they'll refer their family, friends, and anybody they know that you need to call Ken, the other Ken, to get their case handled for them. So, my thing or moniker is, client focused, results driven, and I try to hammer that home with each person that I work with.
And if I may add to that, you notice they all focus on one thing, and I said I focused on three. So you're probably thinking, well, what's this guy doing? Because he's doing the antithesis of what they're saying. But you have to remember that whether it's one thing or 10 things, okay, I agree with them wholeheartedly. You should focus on one thing if possible, because then otherwise, if you're one of those, I worked in another law firm where it was whatever walked in the door, and I absolutely detested it, hated it. They're still like that. That's why I left. But my niche is the Vietnamese community. The Vietnamese community, their main three are criminal defense, personal injury, and family law, and they know me for that. And my approach to branding is more first internal. What I mean by that is I like to focus on the cultural proclivities, the cultural differences between different groups. So in addition to Vietnamese, mostly 90% Vietnamese, I do have some Hispanics, the clients. With those, depending on what country they're from, I can almost even tell what kind of case it's going to be. From different parts of Asia, you can tell what kind of case it's going to be. It just comes with practice. But for me, my brand is the cultural focus I have. So for me, it's worked out well that I could do personal injury, family law, and criminal defense. Eventually, yes, I would like to focus on one, but my clients know me for that. And if you can do those well, it's okay too, because not everybody would really. Let's be honest. Not everybody in this room is going to want to just focus on one thing, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I was a C student, so I couldn't. I had to focus on one thing and just stay focused.
I wanted to just touch real briefly on something that I feel like everyone has kind of said this. It's just another way that I think about it, and I'm convinced that it was one of the reasons why I got a judicial clerkship. Summer of my 2L year, I was going up against the number one student in the class, and I was like 6th, and I was like, man, I'm not going to beat her. How am I going to beat her? She's number 1. But I said this to the judge and his staff attorney. I said, look, my idea on all this stuff is you need to know what you know what you don't know, and know somebody who knows what you don't know. That sounds kind of cheesy and cliche, but it's so true. And like even Nick says I do 3 different things. I guarantee you if somebody walks through his door tomorrow and says, hey man, I was in a real bad car wreck, Nick's going to know somebody to call to handle something. I'm not going to name names. Thomas Lyman does work. Let's switch gears a little bit. And I know this one's a tough one for me. I can't even wrap my head around it, but we're going to try. And maybe I'll just ask it a different way than what was given. But do y'all see a distinction between reputation and brand? That make sense?
Yes, absolutely does. Your brand is what you do. Your reputation is how you do it, right? Are you ethical? Are you personable? Are you efficient? Are you results oriented? That's your reputation. People will talk about that. And that starts in law school. I don't want to blow Lyman's head up here, but he was one of the best students. And so when we all graduated, once he goes into his practice, we're all thinking, well, what's Lyman doing? And can I refer a case out to him? Maybe he'll send me a check if I do, right? So he's good at it, so you want to send it to him. So your reputation is much different than your brand. Your brand's what you do. Your reputation is how you do it.
But I think both of them equally have to do with who you are and what your purpose is.
For me, I would say your brand, again, is how you portray yourself, how you're unique. Your reputation is what people say. That's your track record or your history as people know you. But you define your brand. And brand is very important. I mean, let's take Walmart, for example. Their brand is, lower prices. They can beat anybody on prices. But their reputation is that they treat their employees not so well. But nobody stops shopping at Walmart because they have a great brand and because they deliver a good product and services. So it's important to make sure you focus on both. But I would say your brand is what, sells you and makes you, respected and people attracted to you.
Yeah, I really don't have anything much to add other than the brand is, what they see potentially is what they're going to get, but the reputation is when you can add. I always remember from my legal writing professor, Professor Jeffries, she always harped on, are you adding any value to your client? What value added services are you providing? And your reputation is based on a lot of that value that you're bringing to your client. Is your client getting their money's worth? Are they getting their time's worth when they come into your office to speak with you? That builds up your brand. That's what it is to me. In addition to everything they said is absolutely spot on.
And I think with branding, at least along the lines of preconditioning potential new clients that call the office and what they expect, for our clients, it's you're not going to come ask for a Ruth Chris steak and pay a Waffle House steak price. You just can't. You have to set those expectations, and I think that's also part of the brand as well.
That's interesting to me. We try to market ourselves as the Nordstrom of personal injury. Everybody wants to go to Nordstrom has a great return policy. My law partner shops there a bunch. I don't. What about just specific to brand itself? And we've touched on this a little bit. We've talked about focusing in on one practice area, sticking to what you know, one client at a time. Ken had said. Dave talked about how prosecutors like to try to poke holes in the case. What pitfalls do new lawyers face when they try to go out and make their own brand, if that makes sense? Is there like roadblocks out there, or like things that stopped you from trying to become or market your brand, or
when you're being fake and you're not really being who you are? I'll take myself for an example. I zealously advocate for my clients, but I don't pick a fight with Homeland Security. I mean, it's Homeland Security, and so I have to be very precise with my wording, my approach, how I say good morning. It's not the way lawyering should be, but unfortunately, that is the climate that I am working in. So, I can't go in there and put on a completely different face and fight in front of the judge with. It's just not my personality. Whereas that's how some of the other attorneys are, and that's what they're known for. So I think being yourself and being comfortable with if you're really a litigator or if you're not is very important. What do you guys think?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Don't be fake.
Don't be fake. Yeah.
Yes.
Authenticity is a big thing. Can you stand in your own truth and tell the world who you are, right? For me, a lot of things had to develop for my criminal history to allow me to become a lawyer. And at first I was kind of hesitant to talk about that and to say, I've been to jail more than most of my clients, because at some point people are going to judge you. But you got to get past that point that you're worried about your truth affecting someone else's feelings. And so I got to the point where I said, you know what, the heck with it. This is what happened in my life. It happened for a reason. I know the criminal justice system really well. And now I'm in the front lines fighting recidivism. I'm on the board for the Georgia Justice Project, and the reason we're there is we're trying to create meaningful reform to give nonviolent offenders a second chance at becoming contributing members of society. And if I didn't come out with my story and say, you know what, this is who I am. I've been shot, I've been stabbed, I've been in a gang, I've been in jail a bunch, but I want to be a lawyer because I feel like I have compassion for those who are going through the system. And suddenly it caught fire. So be real.
I really admire Dave for that, because I think as attorneys, the way that we go through the education system and the pedestal the standard that we're held to, we are all very afraid to really reveal some of our past or the reasons. Sometimes it's trauma with some people as to why they practice the law that they practice and what their purpose is.
Yeah, again, I would echo everything they said about being a real person, being authentic. Clients want real people, not robots or people pretending to be lawyers. They want people who they can talk to and have a conversation with and understand where they're coming from in their situation. So the more real you are, the more, I think, authentic, and you're able to reach people. And that goes across whether you got, your social media, your Facebook, your LinkedIn, all that stuff should be the same. It shouldn't be you one way on Facebook and another way on LinkedIn and another way, in another social media. Make sure everything you do about your life is consistent.
So all of my colleagues were spot on once again. If I'm not mistaken, I think they were focusing on the more intangible aspects of pitfalls to branding. I'd like to kind of go in a different direction and talk about more of the tangible, practical aspect of it. And what I mean is, if in case you are working for a law firm and in charge of you get the dubious distinction of being in charge of some kind of marketing, God help you. Or if you want to be on your own and you have to figure out how to market yourself. One of the biggest hurdles is not overspending. Because a lot of us that we want to develop our brand, we have to spend money, we have to advertise, we have to put our name out there. We don't know where to start. And when you open your business or you work for somebody, you're going to get people after people coming to you, selling you their products, selling you their magazine, their newspaper, their social media services, this and this and that. And you're thinking you're doing your part. Well, yeah, let me get this done. And really, a lot of times you find out you're giving your money away. And so then you don't have money later on to continue developing your brand. At least that's the tangible aspect of it. So that is a common pitfall. At least I've had to learn how to deal with that myself.
Just to touch on the advertisement of it, you are your own advertisement, right? If as a criminal defense attorney, if you show up with a flip phone, a wrinkly suit, and a cowlick, a calendar call, your client's probably going to go to jail, right? And so you need to look the part. The fake it till you make it, be real, but you got to look the right part, right? You got to dress properly, speak properly, make good calendar call announcements. People are watching you every single moment, starting with law school.
And I would say, just to take a different perspective from Nick, there are resources out there that can help you, after you graduate and so forth with branding. I cheat myself. I have a company, Creative Internet Authority, who helps me with my brand. I mean, as an attorney, I don't have time to, do social media and take posts and all that, but they do that for me. They develop that and they help me, look professional, stay positive and continue to work while I'm lawyering. And I think that's important because you're the lawyer. You don't want to be, just like you don't want to have a bunch of different practice areas, you don't want to be the lawyer, HR, all these different tasks. You want to focus on what you do best as a technician.